Fun, fun, fun. I see Hector Gomez. Good morning, Hector. Ralph Balderas. John Williams. Good morning. John, my favorite Oscar moment was just everything Nomadland. I didn't think Nomadland could win. I didn't think America or the Oscar voters were ready for a movie like that. I just thought it was cool that it won. The way I watch the Oscars is I start it, run the DVR, and join in like 90 minutes in, because that way I can speed search through a lot of the stuff I don't want to see. Here we go. Last chance to guzzle some coffee. Now, Chris Duel. It is Monday. It is the final Monday in April. It is a Monday that puts us 3 days away from the NFL draft. Lots going on in the world of sports, including the movement of maybe the biggest name in coaching in women's college basketball. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and our very special soundscape stylist, the boy wonder, the flawless and fabulous Jeremy Fouts. We will introduce Jeremy to you in a moment. But Shannon, how was your weekend?
It was actually really incredible. I was a little nervous that I feel like I would miss a lot because I had a wedding to go to, but I was able to watch the Orange and White game in its entirety, and everything other aside from missing Austin FC's historic first win and 3 goals. I pretty much stayed on top of things, especially that Kim Mulkey news. But congratulations to Kate and Lee, an incredible wedding, an incredible party. I believe they are now in Hawaii. I'm jealous. I would love a vacation.
Now,
a wonderful time and a wonderful life together.
Woo! Now, okay, you were worried you were going to miss the Orange and White game, and you were at a wedding, but you got to see it in its entirety. How did you pull that off?
Well, so the game was at 1, so I wasn't able to like make it to the game and then be able to come home and shower and get ready and be at the wedding on time. And I didn't know how like when we would go to the wedding because my family was part of helping. Like we had to get the cakes and everything, so we had a helping hand. So I didn't know how much I would be needed throughout the day. So I was lucky I got to sit down and just watch the whole game.
Very nice. And what were your takeaways from the Orange and White game?
Big takeaways. We definitely still have a quarterback. Not controversy, just discussion. I mean, they played, Orange was a complete team. White was a complete team. You had Casey Thompson on one side, Hudson Card on the other. Hudson Card a little more consistent in that he didn't throw any interceptions. Both looked like they did pretty well with the deep ball. But I think more than anything, people are now questioning maybe if they thought Casey Thompson would be the guy that Hudson Card might have a better chance. We're hearing that Hudson Card has had really great and consistent practices, but that Casey Thompson is special in his ability. And they both, are a little different as far as the style of offense that Texas would probably go with, depending on who does get that starting gig. So it's still very much in play and up in the air of who might get that starting job. But they looked pretty good. I mean, there were a lot of drops at the beginning, a lot of drops from the wide receivers, but they picked it back up there. And Brendan Schooler, of course, moved from wide receiver. He's now playing in the secondary on the defensive side, so that was interesting. He had a great pass breakup. Dicker the kicker, a fan favorite, hit one for 58 yards.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I know it's a spring game and we're having fun out there and we're maybe, everything's pretty vanilla except for, every now and then you get one kind of weird play. There was also, after the Orange team scored their first touchdown, they had the great opening drive. And I guess Coach Sark gave each side, who was coached by a different figure of the team, to say, you can each do one trick play today. And they each used it very early. The Orange team went for a 2-point conversion where Casey Thompson, he did like an over the arm swoop pass, no look. It just wasn't pretty. What was that? Sark even said in an interview after that first quarter, I don't think we'll be using that one during the season because you're not a basketball player. All right. We're not hoopers like that. Let's stick to how we normally throw the ball. But I thought it was a great game. It looked like there were a lot of people there, a lot of people enjoying themselves. And I hear that the stadium, as great and as cool as it looks in pictures, that new South End Zone, that it is something to see in person. So I can't wait till I can get there.
Excellent. All sounds good. And meanwhile, the Spurs get a win in New Orleans over the Pelicans. I believe that was Saturday night. Yes, that was Saturday night. I should know that because I was on the radio side along with Bill Schoening. They win 110-108, which is big because the Pelicans were the team closest to the Spurs in the 11 slot. With that win, for the moment, the Spurs jumped into the 9 ahead of Golden State, but Golden State won again last night. So now Golden State by percentage points jumps into the 9. But suddenly I'm looking now at the standings, Shannon. The Spurs have now won 4 out of 5 games. With that win, they make it very difficult for the New Orleans Pelicans to catch them with only 13 games to play for the Spurs. And suddenly, as you look at that Western Conference, Dallas is in the 6th slot, which is where you really want to be. Because if you're in 7 or 8, you face that play in 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10. The loser of 7 and 8 takes on the winner of 9-10. So you could be the 7th seed and you could find yourself out of the playoffs quickly. So you'd rather be in the 6th slot and just avoid all that craziness, which is where the Mavericks are right now. But the Spurs currently 3 games behind the Mavericks. Not impossible, unlikely probably with 13 games to play, but not impossible. But Portland, Spurs a game and a half behind Portland, who is in the 7th slot, a game behind the Grizzlies. Actually, I'm noticing that ESPN is listing the Spurs in the 9 slot and Golden State in the 10 slot, breaking that tie. So I'll take that. But kind of a bunch up between 7 and 10. So going to be interesting to see how this plays out down the stretch. But the good news for the Spurs at the moment, they have won 4 out of their last 5 games, which is a nice little stretch for them. Tonight they are at Washington to take on the Wizards. So Spurs playing decent basketball right now.
You mentioned the bunch up, and the Mavs play the Kings tonight, and I think the Kings have surprised a lot of people this season, so that's certainly not one that we can go ahead and chalk up to the Mavericks. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. Of course, they, I believe, on a 3-game winning streak at the moment, bit of a hot streak. And, you mentioned the Spurs. How badly do we wish they played better at home this season? I mean, just think if they would be at least 500 at home, they probably find themselves in the 6th spot, maybe even the 5 spot at this moment. And now we're playing down the stretch just to kind of hold on to a playoff berth.
I'm looking at this home and away standings for the Spurs. Spurs are 17 and 10. The 10 losses on the road. Only the Phoenix Suns have fewer losses. The Phoenix Suns are 19 and 9. Every other team in the West has more than 10 losses on the road. You know, Utah is the best record in the NBA. They're 18-12. They've got 12 road losses. Clippers 11, Nuggets 11, Lakers 12, Mavericks 12. So yeah, the Spurs are crazy on the road. And you're right, at home they're 13-19, which is a huge head scratcher. And if they could find a way to win at home, they'd be good. The good news is the majority of their final 13 games are on the road. And if you're going to finish in the 9 or the 10 slot or the 8, you're probably going on the road for the playoffs. So that's currently where they play their best, and that's where they're going to spend most of their time. So that's a good thing for them.
There you go. It's not all bad.
Not all bad.
Look at that. We found some good.
Glass half full. Yes. And before we do our contest here at 620, you mentioned Austin FC, and they get their first win. They scored, you said 3 goals?
3 goals, 3-1 over Colorado.
Nice.
I wish I got to see it, because I can't imagine like being at a bar and that happening and then there being 3. You know, I feel like asking for 1 was maybe a lot because it's the first one, and I really wish I get to go tour the stadium though tomorrow. So that's my kickback for having missed the game over the weekend. Another game though this weekend, so it's all right.
Very, very nice. So Austin FC now 1-1. You got to like that. That's a decent start out of the gate. Best you could hope for after losing that first game to LAFC 2-0. We got a lot to talk about this morning. We'll jump into Kim Mulkey. Just an absolute phenom for the last several years at Baylor. A lot of people did not see this coming. Yesterday, we learned that she is going to LSU. She'll be the new women's basketball coach at LSU. A lot of home ties. She's originally from Louisiana. That kind of makes sense. We'll get into that. We are 3 days away from the NFL draft. We'll talk some NFL football as well. We had a Tiger Woods sighting, a photo released by Tiger on crutches on a golf course with a dog. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. But right now at 6:20, we do this at 6:20 and at 7:20 on this show. But throughout the day, we do it 12 times. It's your shot at $1,000. You're going to get a keyword, and you go to the website of either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760 with the keyword, and you got a shot at $1,000. Here it goes.
Here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Deposit. That's deposit. Enter it now.
The keyword is deposit. Good luck. By the way, if you're new to the show, we stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook pages. There's a YouTube link to that video. It's on Twitch. We're all over the place. I see Hector Gomez has jumped in there, Ralph Balderas, John Williams, Steve Duraco, Clint Proctor, Luisa Alanis, Ryan Pepe Brown, and Jeff McClanahan are the names I see in there right now. Welcome, everybody, on Facebook Live. You were the one who texted me yesterday, Shannon. I heard it first from you. Kim Mulkey. Baylor Bears cannot be loving life on this Monday morning as they lose an iconic coach.
Yeah, and if you followed me on Twitter, you would have known earlier in the weekend that this apparently was going to take place. It really just came down to, I guess, figuring out the details. We got news yesterday afternoon that she was meeting with the Baylor team to let them know of her decision, and then quite literally minutes later, LSU basketball sent out the tweet that she would be their new head coach. I believe we're expecting an official press conference and introduction today. I was, of course, worried because, as Chris, you know very well, news seems to break immediately after the show. So
yes.
I'm happy that they announced it yesterday so we could talk about it today. And then we'll of course grow up. She's great for audio bites, so I can't wait to hear what she has to say when she makes her appearances for LSU. But yeah, 21 years for coaching at Baylor, and I don't know what they do. I mean, where do you go? You almost have to start from ground zero and set the bar back at 1.
She's pretty much irreplaceable.
3 national championships. Vic Schaefer was brought to Texas to beat Kim Mulkey. That was the one thing Karen asked. I think Karen Aston beat Kim Mulkey once in her tenure at Texas. She could not get over that Baylor hump. And ultimately, when it came time to either up her contract or part ways, Texas decided to part ways and go after Vic Schaefer. Vic Schaefer brought in to, beat Kim Mulkey. And they only played once this year, I believe. One of those games postponed and then canceled due to COVID protocols and just not being able to reschedule that game. So I don't know. It almost feels like the Big 12 is wide open now as far as who could win the season and then the Big 12 tournament. I feel awful for those Baylor players because I think more than anything, you go there to play basketball to play under Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey, you look at her Twitter, and 4 days ago, she said congratulations and welcome to the family to their newest signee. And everyone, of course, is now going back to that tweet and saying, well, this did not age well. Because she has since moved on. It will be very interesting to see if, similar to what happened at Texas Tech when Chris Beard came to Texas, if a bunch of players enter the transfer portal, and if they do, are they going to look to go to LSU to play with Mulkey, or are they going to find elsewhere to go? Because again, I just don't know what happens to Baylor. Who do you get to replace her?
She's irreplaceable.
It's almost like you're going to need a filler of sorts, right? A coach that'll be there 3-4 years and they'll probably get beat down on and before they can bring in someone else to really start fresh without people having Mulkey in their mind.
Yeah. Whoever, I mean, you don't want to be that coach because you cannot live up to Kim Mulkey. Your only hope is to bring in, I would think, a young coach that can hopefully build that program and you stay with that coach, hopefully.
I don't know that you can get an already established coach. I mean, as big as that Baylor basketball program has become on both sides, it's, Waco's not necessarily a marquee place. It's not even the marquee team of the Big 12 when you look at athletics. So LSU, an upgrade for her. I'm sure she's getting a lot of coin. And like you said, she's from the Louisiana area. She played her college years in Louisiana. So for her, this is going home. I mean, it's very much like a Chris Beard move. On the surface, it may not seem like a promotion, but it is. So I'm happy for her and excited. I mean, she's going into the Hall of Fame this year. Like, she is a Hall of Fame coach, still coaching, and she's getting this opportunity after 21 years at Baylor, which is, I believe, the only place she's ever been the head coach, to try and do it all again, but this time for an LSU program and an SEC program. I hope so very much that during the SEC Big 12 matchups we typically get during the regular season, we either get to see her play Texas, so Vic Schaefer gets his chance, or that they play Baylor. And if the TV people are smart, they make them play Baylor.
Going to be very, very interesting. Kim Mulkey, the new head coach at LSU, an announcement with her to be made later today. Lots coming up, including NFL draft just 3 days away. Lots of intrigue there. We'll talk about that today. We'll be talking about that throughout the week as we ramp up to Thursday and round one of the NFL draft. Lots coming up. We'll talk Major League Baseball. Lots going on there. Steph Curry sets the NBA record for most three-point shots by any player in a calendar month. The dude has been raining threes for the Golden State Warriors. Big year continuing for Steph Curry. All things NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, college sports, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We didn't even introduce the boy wonder yet. We'll do that coming up, and we're working on a poll question. I promise we're working on a poll question. As soon as we have it, we'll let you know what it is. We're with you till 9 o'clock. Andy Everett joining us at 8:35. Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs just after 8 o'clock. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Jeff McClanahan, good morning. Ryan Pepe Brown, Luisa Alanis, Steve Duraco, Clint Proctor, Ralph Balderas, John Williams, Hector Gomez. Jason, I will probably grow my beard back when it chooses to come back. I actually, since I shaved it, I haven't shaved. It just takes a while to come back. So, and Jason, I got the cool Astros cups that were sent in the mail a couple of weeks ago. Thank you very much. Very, very cool. I'm going to get more coffee.
Morning, everyone.
Cody Webb, good morning. Hector, I did not realize Sonny was 75. That's crazy. Yeah, I've seen it. I saw him on a commercial recently. Yeah, he's one of those guys who is. Hector, I did not realize. Whoa. Was 75. That's crazy. Yeah, I've seen it. I saw him on a commercial. Nothing like a little feedback. Ryan Pepe Brown, I did not see that. I'll have to look at that YouTube. I'll take a look at that here in a bit. I do not have a poll question. I am open to suggestions. Steve Duraco, I am probably down for that. I have to vote tomorrow. I think we're running out of days of early voting. I need to vote. I got a couple of things I have to do, but I should be done by 3 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm like 90% sure I could do that. We need to introduce Jeremy Fouts. People on Facebook, if you've got a poll question idea, I don't see anything I love. You know, one idea is, what was the biggest sports story of the weekend? Kim Mulkey, Tiger Woods sighting, Madison Bumgarner with a no-hitter that's not really a no-hitter because it was in 7 innings. Yeah, I'm seeing some. Who sent that video? That was Ryan Pepe Brown. I'm seeing some still shots of that. That looks absolutely gruesome. That injury. It is after midnight. It's 6 hours and 37 minutes after midnight. Good morning. It's the Chris Duel Show. Along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, I am Chris. You are welcome to join us. There's a number of ways you can participate in the show. You can dial us up on the phone lines if you so choose. Phone number is 800-707-9760. 800-707-9760. We stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook pages. There's also a YouTube link to that video. It's also on Twitch. There you can participate in real time, interact not only with us, but lots of cool peeps from not only across the state of Texas, but often around the world. Lots of people join us on Facebook Live, which is all sorts of fun. I have yet to introduce, and I am remiss for not doing so, the soundscape stylist, the fabulous, the flawless boy wonder, Jeremy Fouts. Jeremy, how are you this morning?
Good morning, everybody. I'm doing pretty well.
Not too convincing there. That's
Yeah.
you didn't convince. I'm
could use some more
I'm doing
sleep.
pretty well.
I guess I could always use more sleep. You know, like I'm never satisfied.
Well, yes. I can agree with that. Now, Devil May Cry is your T-shirt of the day, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, that is correct.
Help me out on that. Is that a band? Is that a cartoon? Is that
This is a fictional demon hunting company. So if you need to hunt any demons,
a
you can give them
fictional?
call.
Fictional, and is it in a book? Is
It's
it?
a game.
It's a video game.
Another video game.
Woo!
I know.
Demon hunting is Jeremy's preferred sporting event.
Yeah. If you need to ask me anything about that, you know, I can talk Ghostbusters. I can talk Devil May Cry. Any demon hunting you want to talk about, I got you.
Shannon, have you heard of the video game Devil May Cry? Am I just way out of touch on this?
I have not.
Okay,
It
good.
sounds like an RPG.
Yeah, it's kind of niche,
Okay.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
But you get you not only play the video, you get the T-shirt. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
If you get the T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, they called me a certified crying devil and gave me a T-shirt. So, thanks, I guess.
So you earned the T-shirt. You didn't.
I earned it through a monetary transaction from Walmart.
Ah,
That's how I earned it. But
wow. I'm surprised Walmart carries Devil May Cry. Well, I guess Walmart would be into demon hunting. They just wouldn't be into demons. I understand they're a very conservative company.
Yeah, they're not big on the demon thing.
Yeah.
That's more of a Target thing, I think.
Target's all about, very satanic. Target. Just kidding, Target people.
Target.
Yeah.
Good.
Woo. Yes. So Shannon, over the weekend, Madison Bumgarner of the Arizona Diamondbacks throws a no-hitter, but it won't go into the record books as a no-hitter because they were playing a doubleheader, and each of those doubleheader games were 7-inning games. One of the weird things about the COVID era is you've got 7-inning games in Major League Baseball when it's a doubleheader, and you've got, if it goes extra innings, you start with a dude on second base, which both of those little anomalies or rules or changes, to me, it's, you've played baseball for all of these years a certain way, and baseball games were 9 innings. I mean, if you're going to go 7, then make them 7. And I mean, all I've heard for years is, well, we're trying to find a way to shorten baseball games. Well, apparently now you're telling us that a 7-inning baseball game is equivalent to a 9-inning baseball game. I'd just like to see baseball get a little consistent. That's a little weird to me.
Yeah, it's like baseball's your mom, and the rules changed based on her interest at that time. Like, I don't really feel like staying longer. So if we could just do 7 today, let's do that instead.
It's so weird. I don't, and I was talking in here, David Munoz, the jazz man. We've had him on the show before, and he's a big baseball guy and a big New York Yankees fan. And he agrees, and he's a traditionalist. And part of what baseball has hung its cap on all of these years is tradition, and this is the way we do things. And, to me, baseball's 9 innings. If you're going to have a baseball game, make it 9. And then, Madison Bumgarner, this will not go into the books as a no-hitter. And I guess it shouldn't, because you have other guys throwing no-hitters who did it for 9 innings. So I guess if it's 7, it's so, or should you have your own category of, is it a 7-inning no-hitter? Should he somehow, should there be a separate record books for 7-inning games? I don't know.
I just think he has to be upset that he didn't get the chance to keep going. I guess there's no 7th-inning stretch. You just stretch on your way to the car.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's it. Yeah. Or you stretch waiting for the second game of that doubleheader. So, we are doing the high five. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. See, my caffeine hasn't kicked in yet, Shannon. So Jeremy's helping us out here. You want to do a little high five?
Let's do it.
High five play of the day. You got music for that, Jeremy? Thank you. So glad you whispered in my ear.
We're going local today, specifically in the greater Austin area, as we now have a name for what was previously known as the Zilker-Zeifer that shut down in 2019, the famous train that goes around the even more famous Zilker Park in downtown Austin. It is going to be the Eagle. And not only that, it's going to have a brand new logo, brand new design. It's going to be all electric and wheelchair accessible. And it's going to be tie-dye, Chris. To keep Austin weird. You're going to have a very 50s and 60s feel to it. It should open later this year. And the best part about this is the community of it all. Not only do people love it, and they were torn up when it went away for even that short time, but the community got to vote on the name. And we've got people like Kendra Scott and other great Austin entrepreneurs who are putting forth money to help bring this back to life and bring it back to life in a way that is now going to be accessible to everyone and anyone who wants to come enjoy it when it opens. I believe they're trying to get it open as soon as possible. What do you think about the name Zilker Eagle?
I'm cool with Zilker Eagle. I'm wondering.
Apparently a throwback name. Apparently the original one was called the Eagle. Interesting.
Now in Brackenridge Park in San Antonio for many, many years, you had a train called the Brackenridge Eagle. So I guess Eagle is a big name for trains in parks. What I'm wondering is, how do you tie-dye a train? That's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a pretty big paint job for whoever gets tapped to do that. But that is today's High Five Play of the Game. High Five Play of the Day brought to you by High Five, 2 Austin area locations. Good times, good vibes, an Austin FC pub club. So I'm sure all the good vibes were had over the weekend. If you weren't able to make it out next weekend. I believe it's a midday or mid-afternoon game. So great time to go enjoy your favorite adult beverage and take in some Austin FC, as they are still playing on the road, not playing at home until June. But there were a ton of Austin FC fans. For anyone who did catch the game, I caught some clips on Twitter, and there were a ton of Austin FC fans up in Colorado. I think that's incredible.
Wow, that is amazing.
To already have that loyal fan base who travels so well.
It must be nice to have that cash. It's like, hey, yeah, let's go to Colorado and watch the game.
Because I'm assuming it's not like Cowboys fans where they're just everywhere, right? They're not really. People are like, oh, they travel well. I'm like, I don't think we travel well. I just think Cowboys fans are everywhere, all over the world.
Yes.
And when the Cowboys come to town and you live there, you have to go.
Right.
People are traveling, bringing the drums, bringing the flags.
That's way cool.
Making waves here, folks.
Now, you mentioned that High Five is an Austin FC pub club.
Mm-hmm.
So is that officially designated by the team? Or are they designating specific pubs around Austin to like the official pub or unofficial pub of Austin FC? Is that how it gets that designation?
That's a good question, because there are a lot of places in town that are pub clubs. You can find them on Austin FC's website. They have a specific page where you can check out and see. Don't be like me, where you go to a restaurant that has TVs and typically has on whatever the hot sporting event is, and you go in and they're not a pub club, and then you have to say, can you put the game on? Can you put the game on? Can you put the game on? Go to a pub club and they will for sure have the game on. So that's on Austin FC's website. And a lot of the clubs, like High Five, I knew they were a pub club because they have a pub club Austin FC flag.
Woo!
So visual evidence as well that they will be airing all the games.
Visual evidence is a beautiful thing.
Yes, I'm a very visual person.
Well, and that's what drives me crazy is when you go to an establishment, either a bar or a restaurant that has a lot of big screen TVs, and there's a no-brainer. There's a Cowboys game on, or in San Antonio, there's a Spurs game on, or as you mentioned, and I know it's new. So you mentioned, I think
but they're
the very
street from this restaurant.
Yeah. Okay.
You can see the stadium from your house.
Well, then there's no excuse for that one. There's no excuse for that one then. But get with the program. Know your audience. Know your city. Know your sports fans. And if part of what your deal is airing sports, put it on the TV. It's not that tough. Speaking of sports, I did mention this. Steph Curry set the record for three-point shots in a calendar month last night. He now has 85, and the month's not over, by the way. It's April 26th.
True.
We still have a number of days left in the month. Dude is just absolutely raining threes. So Steph Curry in the game last night against the Sacramento Kings got to 85 for the calendar month of April. The previous record was held by James Harden, who hit 82 in November of 2019. The NBA, and Pop has lamented this, but he's kind of gotten with the program. He realizes this is where the NBA is now. It's just turned into a three-point game. And Steph Curry was actually one of the guys when he hit it big in the league, when he emerged as a big star in this league. He was just jacking up three-point shots. Now he's doing it at a faster pace and more often than he ever has before. I kind of miss the old school NBA. Yesterday was Tim Duncan's 45th birthday, and part of what the classic Spurs used to do was, throw it in to Tim Duncan in the paint and let him do his thing, and he would either make a move to the basket or he'd kick it out then to Tony Parker or Manu Ginobili or somebody else. But it seems now, and in the NBA they figured it out from an analytics standpoint. If you shoot 33% from 3-point range, that's equal to shooting 50% from 2-point range. So if you can shoot better than 33%, if you can shoot 40% from 3 on a given night, you're going to hit a lot of 3-point shots and you're going to score a lot of points. So it's turned into analytics, and NBA teams now know, let's shoot a lot of 3-point shots. And if we have a good night from 3-point country, we've got a good chance to win that game. I don't know. It's almost like a video game now. It's almost a little bit ridiculous. It's kind of it's not the basketball game that Michael Jordan used to play, or that Shaq and Kobe used to play, or Tim Duncan used to play. I don't know if I like it as much.
I differ, and some days I'm like, yay, 3-pointers, and other days I'm like, it's too much, especially when both teams are kind of having an off night, but they won't give it up, right? Then it just becomes a bunch of old men running back and forth on the floor for 40 minutes. But with Steph Curry, I'm now sitting here thinking, how great he was when he started as a splash brother.
Yeah.
And then you add KD, and then right now he's KD obviously no longer there. Klay Thompson currently not playing. So I wonder if he doesn't get those years with KD, where he, they did a great job of sharing the ball and everyone contributing pretty much equally every night. Does he hit this record or break that record sooner? Because now I'm wanting to know what his highest monthly was prior to the, what'd you say, 85?
85 right now.
And he still has
and counting. A couple of games left probably in the month of April for him, with 4 days left.
Like you were talking about percentages. If your percentage is that high from 3, why not take it? 3 is more than 2.
Yes.
The name of the game is to score more points.
Yeah.
So why not?
True. Yeah. I mean, that's what the game has turned into, and analytics says why not.
Right. And you bring up like the old, back in the day, whatever, it used to be, ground and pound on the inside. But you think of guys like Joel Embiid and Antetokounmpo and how big and strong those dudes are. I would argue it's probably harder to play inside the paint now than it used to be. Like their athleticism and just their size and stature, those are probably percentage-wise lower percent of making those shots now when you're playing up against a guy on your back like that than it might have been back in the day.
Good point. And you've got a big guy like Zion Williamson.
Yeah,
and he's
brick wall.
And he's just getting better and better. I mean, he's still so young to this game. If that massive body, and the Spurs played them on Saturday night, and Zion had a big game, although the Spurs came away with the win. Zion had 33 points and 14 rebounds, even though the Spurs beat the Pelicans 110-108. But yeah, and it begs the question, and there's some talk, Shannon, about, since it's raining threes and more NBA players are hitting them at a higher percentage, do you back up the 3-point line? Is the 3-point shot too easy now in the NBA? Do you need to back it up a couple feet?
Well, the one thing is you can really only go one way at this point, which would be, the north and south, because last time you backed it out, now there's barely room for these guys that have like size 13 shoe to even fit on the baseline for those jump shots. So, I guess that'd look so odd, like be like a cone head of a 3-point line. But you'd still have guys like Steph, who, almost jokingly, takes 2 or 3 dribbles across the half court line and pops one up. And it's not like it's the end of the quarter. It's 2 minutes in, no one's guarding him, and he's hot.
Yeah.
Coming off his ridiculous pregame warm-up shot. Why not just pop one there? They usually go in.
Yeah. Steph can drain it from 40 feet. So, yeah, you could back up the 3-point line. One guy it's probably not going to affect is Steph Curry. We will talk more NBA. We will talk NFL as we are 3 days away from the NFL draft. Will the Cowboys surprise us, or will they do what the vast majority of analysts say, and that's draft cornerback Patrick Surtain of Alabama? We'll get into some NFL, Major League Baseball, college hoops, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's the boy wonder. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show.
Sorry for popping into your ear.
No, it helped me.
I could see Shannon was like trying to get here.
No. That I appreciate that. Ryan Pepe Brown, should the Cowboys trade up to Atlanta at number 4 for Kyle Pitts? You know what? based on everything I'm hearing, Kyle Pitts is expected to be a transformational, once in a rare moon kind of a tight end, whereas, Patrick Surtain and the other guys you can get it in the secondary are I lean toward doing that. We talked to Paul Alexander about that a couple of weeks ago, and he agreed. So, I say trust your scouting. Look at free agency. You've got Dan Quinn, a new defensive coordinator. If you can go out and get the next Travis Kelce, I say go get him. But I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah, and another argument for it, I know they've got Blake Jarwin and but since ever since Jason Witten got old and went away, you've kind of lost that outstanding tight end in the Cowboys offense. And Kyle Pitts would seem to do that for you. All right, I am going to heat up my coffee. I'll be right back. I'll be back in about 60 seconds. If he's there at 10, take him, says Manuel Gonzalez, but don't give up picks. We need too much help on the defense. That is the argument. And I have a feeling you will be happy, Manuel, because I'd be shocked if they did trade up for Pitts.
Didn't realize we were alone. About 4.5 minutes before we get back here from break. Hector Gomez, thank you for saying hello earlier. If you've noticed, I haven't been liking. I usually like to like when people mention me. I haven't been doing that lately because I haven't been seeing them in Facebook. Like I can see them on StreamYard, but I can't see them on Facebook. I don't know why that is. But good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday morning.
Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. Welcome in. Wes Perkins, Manuel Gonzalez. John, I did not. What did Richard Jefferson say about Tim Duncan? Richard Jefferson's been saying some ridiculous things lately. I don't know if these comments were ridiculous or not. Let me know. I think Richard Jefferson's one of these guys. You see him on sports panel shows, and he seems to be saying provocative things just to say provocative things. Just to kind of get attention. That's at least how it seems to me. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Welcome in on a Monday, the final Monday of April, Monday, April 26th, 3 days away from the NFL draft. It's the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Speaking of salty, the Salty Shakedown coming up a little bit later, just after the bottom of the hour, along with this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Just after 8 o'clock, we'll check in with Jeff Garcia of the Locked On Spurs podcast, talk a little Spurs and NBA. Spurs have won 4 out of 5. They take on the Washington Wizards tonight in Washington. They're on the road for a few more games, which is good for them because they're a much better road team than home team this year. So we'll talk a little San Antonio Spurs. Andy Everett will join us just after 8:30, around 8:35. Andy, a golf guru. So I am sure, Shannon, one of the things Andy will talk about, we got our first glimpse of Tiger Woods over the weekend. Tiger Woods on Instagram releases a photo. He is on crutches. He is on a golf course, it appears, and he is with a dog, a cute dog. And he says, quote, "My course is coming along faster than I am." I guess that's his golf course. "But it's nice to have a faithful rehab partner, man's best friend." So it was kind of nice to actually see an image of Tiger Woods. He's on crutches. He's his leg is in a cast, but good to see Tiger again.
Yeah, and good to see Tiger, like you mentioned, in that picture. I was afraid the first Tiger picture we would get would be someone releasing either an awful picture of the crash or of him in the hospital bed. So to see him out on a golf course with man's best friend is a great first picture to see of Tiger since that crash. And also, I think, it's very Tiger that he has himself out on a golf course, and that is the picture. I mean, if you don't think he's at least going to try and come back, I think you're out of your mind.
Yeah, and obviously we all, or at least I certainly do, hope that he manages to somehow come back. It would be a great story. I'm looking at the photo as well. He is still a company man. I see a big Nike swoosh on that T-shirt he's wearing. Oh, and even the shorts have a little Nike swoosh on the shorts as well. So he's all about the Nike.
I wouldn't be surprised if his suits are Nike. I don't know that I've ever seen Tiger in a suit, at least not recently, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's got instead of like where a pocket square would go, just a swoosh instead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's going to be fascinating. I mean, we're going to see, and I agree with you, Shannon, he's going to make the attempt, I would imagine. And as you said, almost certainly to come back, and we'll find out if it happens. And then short of that, does he become a presence in the world of golf? In other words, if there is and there will be a Masters tournament on television, I mean, if there's any way, obviously Jim Nantz, such a big part of that these days, but I think, gosh, if you're the network, you throw whatever money you can at Tiger Woods to make him part of that broadcast, in the same way that for me as a casual golf fan, I would always tune in if Tiger Woods was in the tournament, and certainly on a Sunday if he was in contention. If you have Tiger Woods on that broadcast, for years and years down the line, I think he becomes must-see TV.
Well, could you imagine like kids that are playing in college and high school right now that they go pro, they make it to a tournament like the Masters, and then you have Tiger calling it?
My goodness.
There's always probably the thought in your head when you're in a big tournament that, my favorite celebrity is watching, or my favorite athlete is watching, or whoever, mom and dad, whoever might make you a little bit nervous. And then to know that Tiger is watching because he is calling that event, I mean, that would be, I don't know what would make me more nervous, playing alongside him or playing in the same field, or knowing that he is critiquing my every move because that is what he's getting paid to do.
That's a huge point. I mean, there you could be there with like a big putt, and the cameras are on you, and you therefore know that the eyes of Tiger Woods are upon you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's cool. Jeremy usually tells us these things. Jeremy, are you hip to what today is, as far as what specialty day this is this 20 this I see you typing and Googling. You're cheating. I can see you through the glass.
You did not come
I'm not
prepared
cheating.
today.
No, I knew in my heart it was Alien Day.
Is it Alien Day? See, I don't have
Alien
that.
Day.
Now,
Yeah.
alien as in outer space alien or illegal alien?
Outer space. Today was the day that the original film Alien was released in 1979, starring Sigourney Weaver.
We
Very
gotta do
nice.
better than that. There's nothing else today.
There is.
Hug a Friend Day and Hug an Australian Day.
Hug an Australian
So
Day.
if you have an
Don't know
Australian
him.
friend, you can knock 2 of those out.
But if Chris Hemsworth wants to walk through this door, oh, gladly.
Yeah, right?
Well, I see. My favorite Australian is Olivia Newton-John. So if she walked through this
If you
door,
want to get physical,
woo, yeah, big fan. I have in my hand, Jeremy and Shannon. Today is National, and this is so weird, National Kids and Pets Day. Kids and pets. Why isn't it just National Kids Day or National Pets Day? Why do you have to combine them? And for someone who doesn't have kids, me and Shannon, I do believe, and you, Jeremy, as far as we know.
As far as I know. it's not.
But I'm not exactly a kids person, but I like pets. So can we I'm sure we separate them on another day. I don't know who decided April 26th is National Kids and Pets Day, but there you have it. It is also National Pretzel Day.
It is.
I did know that.
Woo!
I got an email about that.
See?
It's also National Static Cling Day. So
Oh my God.
Japanese static cling.
It's crazy. And I also have in my hand that it is National Richter Scale Day, as in how we measure earthquakes on the Richter scale. I mean, every single object that you can imagine on this earth has a day. I mean, we're wearing headphones. National Headphone Day.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Marketing.
I know, but it's just a little nuts.
Everyone's going to Auntie Anne's today.
Mhm.
Get
Yeah.
your cinnamon pretzels.
Woo!
Get your little hot dog pretzels.
That's true. They should. If you're selling
Giant
pretzels,
Salty pretzel.
they should be very, very happy. Those who sell pretzels on National Pretzel Day, I would think. So the Oscars were last night. Shannon, did you watch the Oscars?
No.
Woo!
They've been pretty boring the last
What?
couple of years. I don't care about the speeches are too long. They're too overdone. And this year, I love a good artsy film, but I always have to go to the theater to watch them because some of them can be slow
Yeah.
and it takes a minute for me to get into them. So when I'm at home, there's too many distractions. So like Nomadland, it's on my list. Still haven't watched it just because when I'm at home, I'm doing a million other things. It's hard for me to just sit down and watch a movie like that,
Yeah.
especially when I know in advance it's probably not going to be that attention-grabbing movie. I know it's really good. You said it's really good. Obviously, it's really good because I believe Frances McDormand won another Best Actress
Yes, she
award last
did.
night. I believe didn't the movie win?
Best Picture, Best
Best
Actress,
Picture.
and Best Director,
So
among others.
obviously I need to watch it, but this year because I wasn't able to go to a movie theater, I really didn't see a ton of the nominated movies. Usually I've seen a majority of them. So I pretty much just watch bad movies all year that came out like on Netflix that could just be in the background while I'm working or something of that nature. But these really great movies that everyone's like, oh, it's so touching, so beautiful. I haven't seen any of those in the last year.
See, I saw more movies this year than I had in recent years because they were streaming. Because HBO Max now is running first-run movies in theaters and on HBO Max, and Nomadland was on Hulu. So I saw. It was weird. I had seen more of these performances. A lot of these were Netflix movies. Were made. Like the Chicago 7 was a Netflix movie. I liked, as I told you about it when I saw it, Nomadland. I would have never really believed that it could have won Best Picture. I kind of wanted it to, but I didn't. It's so unlike, and that's why I liked it. It's a completely different type of a movie, and it's really kind of an exploration on one level of grief because the Frances McDormand character has lost her husband. But at the same time, it's an exploration of kindness. People just, as they're kind of these nomads in their vehicles going across the country, people being kind to one another. And I think coming out of 2020 and now in 2021. And as A, divisive as the country has been, and B, going through this pandemic and so many people in isolation and alone, it's just kind of nice to see a movie about people being good to one another. So I was a big fan of the movie. I was happy that it got so many awards last night.
See if I can get myself to sit down and watch it. And
It's different. I won't call it a feel-good movie at all, but I think it's worth seeing. And she's amazing.
Yeah. I still recommend 3 Billboards, which was the movie she won her previous Oscar for.
Which I have not seen. I'm going to have to take a look at that myself.
It's a good one.
Absolutely. So let's see. We talked a little Austin FC. We talked Kim Mulkey going to LSU. Of course, Steph Curry and his big 3-point fest. He now has more 3-point shots in the month of April, in the calendar month, than anybody else. Kevin Durant came back to the Brooklyn Nets. He scored 33, and the Brooklyn Nets beat the Phoenix Suns, which is significant. That's a good game because Phoenix, second best record. It's so weird. You look at the Western Conference, and the Utah Jazz have the best record in the NBA, followed by the Phoenix Suns. But I don't think anybody, myself included, takes Utah or Phoenix seriously yet. I mean, maybe one of those teams will prove us wrong.
Maybe Utah after last year, more so than Phoenix.
Yeah. Well, and Phoenix was sub 500 last year. Phoenix, right. I mean, and I, as a Spurs fan, and I think you, even as a Mavericks fan, to be able to see how Phoenix has turned it around in 1 year and gotten really good and is essentially atop the Western Conference, just shy of Utah. I think that gives everybody some hope. But, you look at the West, and I think obviously we'll just wait for LeBron and Anthony Davis and the Lakers to get healthy. And then there's Kawhi with the Clippers. In my mind, the West is, it's the Lakers conference to lose. And then, as I mentioned, Brooklyn beats Phoenix over the weekend. Kevin Durant scores 33. Brooklyn beats Phoenix 128-119. Most people saying it's going to be Brooklyn in the finals, although you've got a really good Philadelphia 76ers team, and we're still waiting on Milwaukee. Each of the last 2 years, they had the best record in the East. You keep waiting for them to live up to their potential.
Yeah, I think Brooklyn is all but set to make it to that finals, barring too many injuries on their part. You'd hate to see all 3 of them out of the big 3, but 2 out of 3, like you say, and Meatloaf says it ain't bad, and they're pretty good when they have at least 2 of them on the floor. And then for the Suns, I mean, for Chris Paul's sake, I hope they do well in the playoffs, because he's got this reputation now that he just can't get it done. I mean, every team he's been able to get to the playoffs, and then he himself has not been able to make it through, so his team doesn't make it through. So for him, I hope if it doesn't go their way, that he's at least healthy enough to play, because he certainly has put a spark in this Phoenix Suns team that we haven't seen in years. I mean, they kind of became a bit of a laughing stock for a little bit. I mean, the most relevant thing about them was Shaq in those Icy Hot commercials wearing his Phoenix Suns uniform. And as we know, that was like the tail end of his career. And
the Suns, second best record in the NBA. I mean, the Clippers are percentage points behind them, but even though, Brooklyn beat them, Brooklyn is at percentage 672 at 41-20, and the Suns 42-18, percentage 700. So, and the good news, if you're a Spurs fan, and I am, because the Clippers are in the 3 slot and the Lakers are right now in the 5 slot, which is crazy. Assuming the Spurs win the play-in and they get the 8 seed or the 7 seed by virtue of the play-in tournament, you avoid the Clippers or the Lakers in the first round. So if you're like me and you're not sold on the Jazz or the Suns, there's a good chance if the Spurs advance, that they would face the Jazz or the Suns in the first round of the playoffs. It is 7:20. We do this at 6:20 and at 7:20, and actually we do it 12 times throughout the day. Wherever you're listening to this radio show, either on Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone. When you hear this, and you're going to hear it now, you get a keyword, you go to the website of either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760, pop that keyword in, and you are in the running for $1,000. We're going to do it right now. Find out the keyword. Here it is.
Right now, Here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Joy. That's joy. Enter it now.
Joy. And you will be joyous if you win the $1,000, I imagine. So good luck to you. We do that 12 times throughout the day. So keep it here all day. You get a lot of chance to win the $1,000. I was mentioning, Shannon, the Spurs beat New Orleans in New Orleans on Saturday night, 110-108. In that game, DeMar DeRozan, 32 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. DeMar DeRozan in a contract year, he will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's certainly making the case to get paid either by the Spurs or by somebody. But by virtue of that win, now the Spurs have a 4.5 game lead over the Pelicans with 13 to play for the Spurs. And Dan Weiss, who does Spurs television, was on the pregame show with Bill Schoening, and he mapped out what would have to happen for the Pelicans to catch the Spurs. The Spurs' magic number is now 8. Any combination of either 8 Spurs wins or 8 Pelican losses or 4-4, either way, and the Spurs are automatically in the postseason. But even if the Spurs go right around 500 now in the final 13 games, if they go 7-6 or 6-7, the Pelicans would have to win 11 out of their final 12 to catch the Spurs. And in no 12-game stretch this season have the Pelicans won 11 games. So it's all, unless the Spurs completely collapse here, and go 2-11, which they're highly unlikely to do. It's almost a sure thing that the Spurs are one way or another going to get into the postseason, at least get into the play-in situation, which after this team missed the playoffs a year ago, it's kind of cool for Spurs fans to see that. And at the moment, they're a game above 500 at 30-29, and they were sub 500 last year. So one way or another, this is certainly a better year for the Spurs than last year, which I think once again is just a credit to Greg Popovich. He's got a lot of youth on this roster. It's a season there were some injuries. You lost LaMarcus Aldridge. Ultimately, he played a little bit. There was the buyout, and of course we talked about it just over a week ago when LaMarcus retired. But so there's been a lot of change to the Spurs roster, and Pop has kept them right there. And they're in the mix as we speak for anywhere from the 6 to the 10 slot in the West, which either one of those gets you into the postseason.
Yeah, I think you're right that the Spurs have a pretty solid chance here to make it to the postseason. I almost want Jeremy to go grab that clip of you saying that, though, just in case, because we know in radio we love a good callback. I don't want to jinx it for him. But it is looking good. I like that. The number is 8. That will be something that I will definitely look for. And then, the Pelicans is so interesting because we had, last week with Zion saying, he loves to play in the Garden. It's the mecca of basketball. And people just are like, oh, he's wanting to go play for the Knicks. He wants to play for the Knicks. And I mean, them missing the playoffs and not performing well, and kind of continuing to not that organization kind of fumbling with their dealings doesn't speak well for his future there with Zion and his, and especially with the Knicks playing as well as they are. I mean, who would have thought? We just talked about the Suns and the Jazz playing so well over in the East. You have the Knicks, who I think are in.
They're 4. They're in the 4 slot, and they're 34-27. That's 7 games above 500. They haven't been 7 games above 500 in years.
That's one thing to be Carmelo Anthony leaving the Nuggets and trying to go be the face of a franchise that just needs a pick-me-up, and then he never was able to pick them up, versus a guy like Zion, who is quietly living up to all of the hype. Imagine how much hype would actually be around him if he were to go to a place like New York and they were winning.
But for New Orleans, if he does that after Anthony Davis walked away, and then if Zion walks away, my God, that would just be rough.
Send that team to Seattle or something.
Yikes. And that's not far-fetched.
If A-Rod doesn't do it first.
And if basketball players in the NBA know who A-Rod is, We
That's
covered
true.
we covered that
There's an
story.
age gap that we've got to get through here.
This is true. All right, coming up, Shannon Salty shakedown. What happened on this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Just after 8 o'clock, we'll go deeper into the Spurs and the NBA. Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs, golf guru and the voice of UTSA athletics, Andy Everett, going to jump in here just after 8:30. Lots going on. We are with you till 9. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Your soundscape stylist is the boy wonder, the flawless and fabulous Jeremy Fouts. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Laura Burris, good morning. Carl Fisher, good morning. Sports Opinion 210. Yeah, most people are saying Patrick Surtain. A lot of people say Surtain. It's spelled Surtain. I know Tanner Carlson likes Horn more than Patrick Surtain, so we shall see. See how the Cowboys have those players ranked. John Nieto talking about Richard Jefferson. He was dissing Tim, saying that people need to stop paying attention to him just because it was his. Yeah. I don't, sometimes I think Richard Jefferson is being tongue in cheek. And then other times I think he's just dying for attention. So he knows if he says something outrageous that we'll talk about him. So that's just weird. Yeah, Carl, I think the smart money says go defensive and hope that, draft somebody on the offensive line later into the draft and hope that you score. And I think the big hope is that your offensive linemen like Tyron Smith, who have been so injured lately, are somewhat healthy this year. John Williams says, give Patty Mills a virtual hug on Hug an Australian Day. That's not a bad idea. Oh, okay. Thanks. Hey, Shannon, can you hear me? Andy Everett texted me he can't do today. He's got a client golf event this morning. He can do tomorrow, so we'll do him tomorrow. Anthony Del Toro, good morning. Jason Paniagua, good morning. John, I don't know what Walter Pasacreta is up to. I hope all is well with him. We'll have to check in with him at some point. Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. The man spinning the tunes for you is Jeremy Fouts, the pride of Oklahoma Christian University. Welcome in. Coming up at the top of the hour, just after the top of the hour, Jeff Garcia of Locked on Spurs. In a moment, the Salty Shakedown. Before that, though, sports birthdays and this day in sports history. April 26th, 1966, Red Auerbach retires as head coach of the Boston Celtics. Red Auerbach fought to keep ABA teams out of the NBA. So, sorry, Red. Spurs are here. Get used to it. Oh, and we got Tim Duncan. Yep. Speaking of Spurs, on this day in 1983, in a playoff game, game one of a series between the Spurs and the Denver Nuggets, the Spurs won game one by a score of 152 to 133. George Gervin had 42 points for the Spurs. Johnny Moore had 17 assists. This day in 1983, the Baltimore Colts, with their first selection in the NFL draft, chose Stanford quarterback John Elway. He said, I won't go to Baltimore, and he forced a trade to the Denver Broncos. This day in 2003, the Cincinnati Bengals, with the number 1 overall pick, chose USC quarterback Carson Palmer. How'd that work out for him? Beware, Joe Burrow. On this day in 2008, the Miami Dolphins, with the number 1 overall pick, chose University of Michigan offensive tackle Jake Long. On this day in 2012, the Colts had the number 1 pick again. They were in Indianapolis this time. They chose Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck. And finally, on this day in 2018, the Cleveland Browns had the number 1 overall pick, and they chose the pride of Austin, Texas, Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield.
From Lake Travis.
Oh, is he?
That's a difference.
Well, thank you.
No, we do not claim him.
All right.
Sir.
There's that. How about sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1897, Eddie Egan, American boxer. He took Olympic gold in 1920, and in 1932, he won gold again as a bobsledder. That's crazy. Never knew that. Boxer in 1920, gold medalist. Bobsledder in 1932, gold medalist. Eddie Egan was born in Denver, Colorado. He died in 1967. Turning 32 today, Cole Beasley. Happy birthday to Cole Beasley, former Cowboy, now a Buffalo Bill. Born on this day in actually yesterday's birthdays, because there was a big one we missed yesterday. This wasn't the big one, but Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, born in 1962 yesterday. Joe Buck, born in 1969, and celebrating a birthday yesterday, his 45th birthday, Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, born in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Happy 45th birthday to Tim Duncan. Those are your sports birthdays along with sports history. Time now for your daily salty shakedown.
Yeah, and head over to am1300thezone.com where we have the Salties Shakedown Sizzling Summer Tailgate Contest where you can enter to win a good stock tailgate package. Meat so good, you don't even need a salty shakedown. Of course, Good Stock is Nolan Ryan's place. The Good Stock Tailgate Pack is the perfect choice when you're hosting a game day tailgate at the stadium or watch party in the comfort of your home. Hand-selected a variety of our most popular Good Stock Angus steaks will ensure everyone gets their favorite cut. Score big with family and friends when you select our tailgate pack. That pack includes ribeyes, strip steaks, and fillets. So head over to the Zone and check that out and enter to win some yummy, yummy steaks from Nolan Ryan's Good Stock. All right, getting in to the shakedown topic number 1 today, a support bunny. This is my new favorite thing. You want to talk about positivity. It's been rough times out there in COVID. A lot of people have not only lost their jobs, but their businesses. And this happened to one family who had a restaurant brewery business and they lost it during COVID. So they got a support bunny. I've heard of support cats. I've heard of support dogs. I've heard of support iguanas. I think this is the first support bunny. And it's not like a little tiny bunny. It's one of those big boys. You need both hands to carry him around. Well, he made an appearance at a San Francisco Giants game with his family over the weekend. And he, of course, became all of the rage. I don't know if he had a leash. I think they were just holding him, but I'd love to see a bunny just hop around on a leash. But his name is Alex. He's 4.5 months old. The family just got him after their restaurant unfortunately shuttered during COVID. He's not only been to baseball games, but he's been tubing, he's been kayaking, he's been to NASCAR races, and the San Francisco Giants won their game, and so they now have invited the bunny back as their good luck charm. When asked where else the family might end up taking him, they said they'd love to go to a Warriors game. The Warriors heard this. They've already said, yes, bring them. We love them. So now we're on like bunny watch 2K21 for Alex the Bunny. I wonder how much bigger he's going to get at 4.5 months old, but I love this story, and now I kind of want a bunny just as big as him. I don't know if my dog would care for it, but I think Alex is the best thing on the internet today. Have you seen this good luck bunny?
I have not. I will have to look. I didn't know bunnies or animals were allowed at Major League Baseball parks.
He's a support animal.
All right.
He's a therapy animal.
So you have to.
Yeah.
Woo.
I think some airlines recently made it to where you can only have certain support animals because I think some people were getting a little crazy with, like, I don't know, birds. To me, a bird wouldn't really be like a little canary. What is that doing for you? Don't bring that on an airplane. But this bunny is all the rage, and I don't know. I think he's really going to blow up in the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to see him everywhere. So I don't know. We've got NASCAR coming to Austin next month. Maybe he's already been to one NASCAR race. Why not bring him in? They also said he did take part on Easter and helped kids find Easter eggs, which I thought, genius.
I just
very on
Googled
brand for him. Did you see him?
Yeah, I'm looking
giant.
at. He's huge. He's like a big dog.
Like a small child.
Yeah.
He needs his own seat at the games he attends.
Wow. Yeah, he's big.
Yeah. But awesome. We'll get that up on the website later today for those that haven't seen the 4.5 giant bunny named Alex, who is a support bunny who has been traveling to sporting events because I guess that's just what bunnies like to do. That's what they really want. We just never knew it until today. Moving on to our second topic, Bill Belichick gets keys to his hometown, Annapolis. Bill Belichick, of course, the head coach of the Patriots, has won numerous Super Bowls. Is a guy known for his style or lack thereof. A guy I can't wait to see how he handles this year's draft after last year's was just, riveting to watch that man sit at his kitchen table with appearances by his dog. But interesting, Chris, he got the key to his hometown. They presented it to him during the Navy-Army lacrosse game. Which I guess, okay, he's pretty busy during the football season. Maybe he can't make it out to that Army-Navy football game, which is iconic in every way. I mean, it's a must-watch game every year. I just find it hard that they didn't maybe at least try to do it then, because I don't know how many people, A, are at a lacrosse game during a pandemic, and B, at a lacrosse game during a pandemic or not. I know that up in that area, lacrosse is a bit more exciting for people. It's like the place where if you're going to play lacrosse for school or professionally, like, you go to that part of the country. But Mr. Belichick now has a key to Annapolis. What do you think about that?
Well, and whenever I think about Annapolis and Bill Belichick, as a Cowboys fan, I know the stories that Bill Belichick tells. His dad was an assistant coach for the Navy football team at Annapolis, and Roger, when he played at Navy, would stay late after practice, and the only person still on the practice field was, I think, an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old Bill Belichick at the time, and Roger would throw the football with Bill Belichick, which I think is just such a cool story that these two iconic NFL Hall of Famers, and Bill Belichick is a surefire NFL Hall of Famer, obviously, the fact that their paths crossed in the early 1960s on the practice field at the Naval Academy is cool. So I find Bill Belichick is kind of, we all got kind of tired of the Patriots winning all those Super Bowls, and he's a little bit ridiculous in press conferences, but he certainly has his own style. So good for him. And I will always have a soft place in my heart for him just because he crossed paths with Roger, and they like and respect one another.
That's got to feel like a pretty honorary moment to receive a key. I just never know what people end up doing with them after the fact. Do you put it on a little necklace and wear it around wherever you go?
It's a good question.
Key for, and you're like, to an entire city. That's what this key is for. Let's go. Let's do it. I wonder if it gets you any like special privileges. Like, you don't need to make a reservation. That would be what I'd use it for most. I don't want to wait. Give me a table right now. This key allows me to sit wherever and whenever I want at this restaurant. All right, finally, I think probably the Oscar-worthy performance of the weekend came from Mr. Rob Gronkowski, as he was a surprise for the Arizona football team. They said they had a guest speaker. Rob came out all suited up, and he broke a world record by catching the longest pass in the history at 600 feet, which was dropped from a helicopter. It took him 3 attempts, but he finally did it. Following that catch, he, of course, had to do the ultimate Gronk spike. I don't think this was something we ever needed. But now that it's been 600, I mean, why not do it again and raise that helicopter up to 601? I think a missed opportunity that you didn't have Tom Brady in the helicopter to throw that pass to Gronk, because Tom was not a part of this, because then you'd had both of them, right? Probably longest pass and longest catch. But Gronk did it. A pretty Gronk move, but we're used to seeing him making headlines for like the last one we talked about, Gronk, he was still, his favorite number was still 69, but now he's setting world records. He's in the record book for reals, and it was all to go home to his alma mater, Arizona. Did you see the catch?
I did.
I wonder what velocity that thing was coming down with.
Well, and see, that's what, everything.
It almost sounds dangerous.
It does. Everything we know about physics says from the higher an altitude you drop something, it reaches an escape velocity. Because I've always heard, if you drop a penny, it's like in San Antonio, we've got the Tower of the Americas, and they say don't do something stupid like throw a penny on, because you can kill somebody, because the penny reaches a velocity so high, it's like a little bullet. So I wonder, and we're gonna have to talk to a physicist or something. At what altitude, if you go high enough, does a football become a dangerous thing to catch?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
And you think, they chose 600 feet. Maybe there was some pre-planning ahead of that to say, you go any more than 600, it's going to get really dangerous really quickly. And I believe he was in pads and a helmet when he did this. So it wasn't
Smart.
like he was just out there in shirts and a t-shirt and, getting pelted. I didn't see the missed catches, so I don't know how those went. I only saw the Oscar-worthy final catch for the 600-foot catch, now a world Guinness record. I wonder, that to me is almost like shooting a football out of a cannon and seeing how far it goes and having someone on the other end to catch it. It just came out of a helicopter. Pretty good move. I mean, Arizona, I don't know that I see them as a hot place to head for your football career in college. That's going to take you to the NFL, but I mean, it's a pretty good recruiting tool when you do something like that. You bring Gronk back, and then you'd pull off a world record. I mean, they're almost probably going to have to do something like this every springtime just to get the kids excited to see what they're going to do next. But congratulations to Gronk on his new world record. I don't know how long he'll hold it. I feel like someone's going to want to do 601 now. But that concludes today's Salty Shakedown.
Excellent. I do like your idea, though, and it would have been perfect if it was Tom Brady up in the helicopter.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Anybody else? Because I don't know the name of the person who did it. You'd have to assume he's going to get put in there for longest pass.
Yeah.
Because it's only a pass if someone catches it.
You completed the pass. But yeah, it would seem to me that now that, and especially you look at all the hoopla now surrounding this and the video went viral, you would think someone else would now do this. And I'm surprised you think of, wide receivers who are known for, wanting to get attention. I think of a T.O. or a Chad Ochocinco, and these guys, even though they're retired, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys now, and again, you're right. All you got to do now is take it to 601 or 605 and you have the new record. So you might start seeing a lot of this happen. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever seen Peyton's Places on ESPN Plus, but it's an incredible show. It's awesome to see Peyton's personality, especially seeing him interact with other former players and just people that he really admires. And he's got one episode with Chris Carter where Peyton is just launching balls off of a building, I believe in New York, and Chris Carter is out in the park, across the street, and they're trying to get them to catch. I don't know if it was for a world record or just something fun they were doing, but it was pretty incredible, and that's what it reminded me of. So I don't know. I feel like we're going to get a Peyton's Place where he's going to be trying to maybe be like Gronk, but be the guy who throws the pass rather than catches the pass.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talk about Peyton Manning, and there was that talk earlier in the year, Monday Night Football trying to find a way to make itself relevant again. And I still keep waiting for Peyton Manning to show up in a broadcast booth. As good as Tony Romo is, you get the feeling that Peyton Manning would be just a great personality in a broadcast booth.
I have no doubt that he would be great, but if you're Peyton Manning, you're living the life right now, right? He still has almost all of his endorsements that he had when he was
Yeah.
playing. He's doing the show where he just really gets to go hang out and just do fun things with, again, these people that he admires and people that he played with and people that he wish he played with and all these other people that, he's got one episode with Jay Leno, right? Where they're just driving around in old cars. It's a lot of work to be a broadcaster. I mean, they talk about the giant books and all the studying, and then there's all the extra travel. I know Peyton obviously travels for Peyton's Places. It wouldn't be Peyton's Places without the travel. But if I had my choice, I think I want to do this show where I can do kind of whatever I want and have fun than, have to study week in and week out throughout the fall and kind of go live that life that I already lived for so long of that rigid football schedule.
Yeah. But then again, depending on what network would be willing to throw a ton of money at Peyton Manning, it would seem to me that he could have the best of all worlds. He could still.
How much more does he need?
That's a great question.
It doesn't seem like that. He's already not a flashy guy. I just don't see him feeling like he's got to do something. Because what else would Tony Romo be doing, right? I don't think he could be doing something like the Peyton's Places. The closest thing Tony Romo would be doing for money would be doing more at attempting to be a professional golfer.
Yeah, Tony would be out on a golf course.
Yeah.
But again, and there's just such a great example. I mean, who knew that Tony Romo, this would be like his vein of gold. Yeah. I mean, he wound up being so good at it. And I still, to this day, I think because Tony was that good when Jason Witten tried Monday Night Football, I think, granted, Jason Witten just didn't really have it in a big way, but I think Tony Romo so raised the bar and Tony Romo made it seem so easy and so natural that when Jason Witten did it, we thought, oh, okay, this will probably be pretty good, and it wasn't. And it just made it more difficult on him, I think.
Could you imagine Tony being like an analyst on a team and him being in the ear of the head coach while sitting in a booth during the game, being like, this is what the defense is doing, or this is the exact play the offense is about to run, call the audible, or, whatever. Just
yeah.
Because he does like predict half of the things that go on. And also as a Cowboys fan, it's like, why couldn't you predict that you were going to throw an interception? What was wrong with that? How did you not predict that you were going to need protection on the blind side because you're on your back once again? But I'm happy for him, and I love his I think he does those Corona commercials now. I think those are pretty great.
Those are good. Yeah. And again, he's become, for me, even if I'm not that excited about a given NFL football game, if he's on the crew, it's worth it for me. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the guys I talk about this all the time, the TNT basketball panel, with Shaq and Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith. It's like, no matter if they're on, I'm in. The remote control's going down. I want to see halftime. I want to see post game just to see what they're talking about. And even if it's a game I don't care that much about, the fact that they're talking, there's going to be some kind of entertainment value there for us. So it's kind of cool. I like them. All right. Coming up, we will talk a little more NBA. Jeff Garcia of the Locked on Spurs podcast going to join us. Spurs on a roll lately. They have won 4 out of 5. They're 17-10 on the road and looking quite good now for the postseason after they beat their closest competitor for the 10 slot. That was the New Orleans Pelicans. They beat them on Saturday night in New Orleans, 110-108. So we'll talk all things Spurs, all things NBA, and more. Got to get into the NFL draft. We're just 3 days out, so we'll talk a little more NFL draft coming up in the 8 o'clock hour as well. We should probably also revisit the orange and white game, which was a big deal in Austin for Longhorn fans over the weekend. That and a whole lot more. Jeremy Fouts makes the show go. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, and we are with you till 9 o'clock. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, Beth Settle. Yeah, I did see that story, John, that you sent me in Messenger about the Ohio bar owner. We might bring that up. That's funny. And LeBron had the funny, it's an Ohio bar owner who says until the NBA suspends LeBron because of that tweet about the police officer, he won't show any any more NBA games. And LeBron said, "Oh man, I was about to go to that bar and watch an NBA game." So Armando Salinas, good morning. Whoa, Tom Cunanan says Bill Belichick played lacrosse in college. I did not know that. So that makes total sense now. That they would honor him at a lacrosse game. Cool.
Hello again, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Unfortunately, got a call from the one and only Andy Everett saying he cannot join us at 8:35, but we still got Jeff Garcia coming up, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, so I guess I'll have to kick out the Katy Perry music I had already. That's a shame. I was excited to play that. So if anyone has any song suggestions, any classic rock you got on the brain, let me know. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Dean. Good morning, Yolanda. Thank you for the warm welcome. As you can tell, I'm pretty congested. I don't know if anyone's seen the Mortal Kombat movie. I've heard it sucks. I've heard it's good, and I've heard it's very good. So I don't really know what to think about it, but I am a Mortal Kombat fan, so I would like to see it. But we'll see what happens. I feel like every time I come into this room, there's some new trinket in here that wasn't in here before. Like now we have a iHeartMedia tech support coaster thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard Trefan. Jason Paniagua there with the Carol Burnett birthday shout out. Yes, he usually calls us. He usually calls us right about 5 after. Do you have his number in case he doesn't? Is that sheet in there? Okay. 95% of the time he calls us. I did. Thanks for that.
He also called me to say that he could not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't typically. So I'm glad you told me because I don't typically check texts during the show. I'm just not used to it because I'm not. Most people aren't texting me between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. So I'm glad he had you call my attention to that. Yolanda, that's an interesting question. Will Romo be the next John Madden in terms of sportscasting greatness? I think he's comparable. I think in John Madden's era, there was less sports programming. So I think because there's so much more sports programming, and even now, there's even more national NFL games because of Thursday night football and Sunday night football and Monday night football that did not exist. I mean, you had Monday night football in the Madden era, but you didn't have Thursday night and you didn't have Sunday night. So there are more games, and that's just NFL. But if you look at everything else, there are more games and therefore more personalities. And, Madden was in, I talk a lot about Howard Cosell on Monday Night Football. Madden was, one of the first really comical and almost bombastic and expressive analysts, whereas, he was his own man with his own personality, whereas a lot of analysts would play it straight. And almost like Merlin Olsen along with Dick Enberg. Merlin Olsen was a straight man pretty much. So now in the Romo era, there are a lot more personalities. So I don't know that, even though I think Romo is comparable and as good as John Madden, I don't know that he'll be as pronounced of a standout personality as John Madden was. It's a really good question, though. It'd be something to explore, and talk about the greatest sports analysts of all time. Certainly, Madden would be at or near the top of that pyramid. It is Monday. It is draft week. A little bit later in the show, we will get into the NFL draft, which will be on Thursday. It'll be a big topic of discussion today and throughout the week. And certainly a lot of us are Dallas Cowboys fans, so we pay a lot of attention to what the Dallas Cowboys might do. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and your soundscape stylist, the boy wonder, the flawless and fabulous Jeremy Fouts. You can be a part of the show if you want to jump in on the phone lines at 800-707-9760. We are streaming live video, as we always do, on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, The Zone's Facebook pages. There's also a YouTube link to that video stream, as there is on Twitch. We are all over the place. And right now, let's talk a little Spurs. Let's talk a little NBA. As the NBA season is winding down, we are into the final weeks of the NBA season. And I know the Spurs have 13 games remaining on their schedule, coming off a big win over the weekend at New Orleans over the Pelicans, 110-108. One of our go-to guys on all things Spurs and the NBA is the lead digital reporter for a couple of San Antonio television stations, Fox 29 and News 4 San Antonio. He also has a great podcast, Locked on Spurs. Jeff Garcia, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Happy Monday, or more importantly, happy National Pretzel Day to you and Shannon.
Are you a pretzel guy? Are you into pretzels?
I am. I like the sticks. I like the roll gold sticks.
Are pretzels a big? You spend a lot of time in New York City. Are pretzels a big deal in New? I think there's like stands around the city you can go get pretzels. Correct?
Yeah. They're a go-to snack here in New York City. You get the pretzel carts. You got. You can't escape it. They're everywhere here in NYC. And they're very hearty. Let's put it that way. They're a meal in itself. They're that big.
Do you dip them in anything? Or are you going straight bread?
I'm going salted.
Okay.
Salted with I don't mind the chocolate. Sometimes people put the chocolate on it, like a chocolate drizzle. It tastes pretty good. And then they do the mustard. They go with that. The best pretzels I've had so far have been in Met at the City Field. They have really good pretzels out there.
Now, when you're in New York City, what's the biggest? You talk about the carts on TV. I see like hot dog. What's the biggest food item off the cart? You know, in San Antonio, obviously, we love our taco trucks, but the carts in New York City, what's the most common food that people go for in the city?
Yeah, it is the pretzel. It is the hot dog. You're starting to see a lot more. Well, New York City has legalized marijuana, so it's everywhere now. There's carts out there selling weed in vans. They got nuts. They have this thing called nuts for nuts, and these big carts. You get an assortment of peanuts, whether it be your cashews, your almonds. So they have that. New York is very, very snacky because it's so on the go. So people want a quick boost of energy. They'll get the pretzel. They'll get the hot dog. Ice cream is another one. Ice cream carts everywhere in the city.
Very cool. I never thought about mobile weed options.
They went legal. They just sprouted like wildfire.
That is crazy. He is Jeff Garcia of the Locked on Spurs podcast. Jeff, all of a sudden, not long ago, the Spurs were on a losing streak and things were looking really, really bleak. Now, all of a sudden, they've won 4 out of 5. They keep winning on the road, 17-10 now. And you look at the math for New Orleans to catch them for that 10 slot. It's unlikely now that New Orleans will catch the Spurs. And Shannon and I were talking about the standings earlier. 6 is a possibility for the Spurs, and certainly 7, 8, and 9 are now in play for the Spurs as well.
Yeah, they're in it, but it's going to be a tough task ahead of them because they have, I think, of the remaining schedule now, they have one of the toughest, if not the toughest, slates ahead for them. You still have dates with Brooklyn. You still have dates with Portland and Utah twice. You got Boston ahead. Philadelphia still on the slate. You round out with Phoenix. Now, the good news is that most of these teams, You hope that they will already be in rest mode. So maybe you're looking at a Phoenix that starts resting Booker down the stretch. Maybe those final 2 games where it's all but sealed for Phoenix, they're in, and they locked in their spot, and the Spurs need a couple wins to move up. Maybe that'll help them. But if you just look at that right now, yeah, the Spurs have to keep their mojo going. They won 4 of their last 5 games. I mean, that's pretty impressive considering the team has went through that 2-9 or that 2-7, homestand where they look pretty much all but out of the season. You like how they're rebounding well. You like how they're scoring. Derek White is having one of the better legs of his season this year ever since coming back from the toe injury. Things are starting to click. And as they say, Chris and Shannon, it's not how you start, it's how you end. And this is how they're ticking up, and this is how they're finally rounding to form. Better late than never, because now's the time to get on that roll and start peaking.
Well, when we talk about the Spurs being in their group now, they take on a hot Wizards team. I believe it's tonight, actually, where they're on an 8-game win streak. Of course, the Spurs won that first matchup by quite a bit. Russell did not have a great night, only scoring 9 points in that matchup, but he, of course, is on a roll with all of his triple doubles as well. What are they going to have to do tonight in order to maintain Russell in the Wizards?
Yeah, well, one thing that Washington's really good at is putting up points, and at home, they do that even better. On average, they average about 119 points per game in home losses. That's just in home losses. So imagine they do in home wins. So the Spurs got to keep them off that scoreboard. I mean, they really got to slow down the pace. They have to control the pace tonight because if you got Westbrook running up and down the way he wants to play, you also have other guys that the Spurs got the key off on. Rui Hachimura, Bradley Beal. Just the combo of Beal and Westbrook are going to be a handful for San Antonio. So you're going to looking at Derek White. You're looking at DeJounte Murray. Keldon Johnson to slow down these double-headed monsters that Washington has. I think they can do it. This first team has seemingly rallied lately. They're stepping up their game. They're beating teams. Like they go into Phoenix, and the Phoenix was 100%. They weren't out, but they took advantage of the fact that Phoenix took the foot off the gas pedal. The Spurs have shown in recent games that they can take advantage of teams when their opposition is having a bad night. Phoenix depleted Detroit. So all in all, it should be a great game. But yeah, you're looking at slowing down Westbrook, Beal, and controlling the pace tonight.
Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs with us. Jeff, you just talked about this remaining Spurs schedule. They've got really, really tough opponents. And as Shannon just mentioned, tonight's opponent, the Washington Wizards, have won 8 in a row. So they're red hot. But what I've noticed as well, as I hear you talk about the tough schedule, it seems like this Spurs team plays up to and down to its competition. When it's a really good team like a Phoenix or the Clippers or the Lakers, they bring their game and they play with those really good teams. And then again, when there's a bad team and you go, okay, this is a bad team, they've got a lot of players out, it seems like the Spurs play down to that opponent, and that turns out to be often a tight game as well. So it's going to be, I think tonight, as you mentioned, is going to be an interesting test because Washington is so hot right now and does have all that firepower. But again, you look at the Spurs road record of 17-10, and they're road warriors, and they seem to be right at home on the road. And we'll see if that happens again tonight.
Yeah, you hope they can play the rest of the season away from San Antonio because that seems for them. But one thing I do want to point out is you're right. Throughout the season, they've shown tendencies to play down the competition and not take advantage of situations. But in recent games, they kind of been bucking the trend. I mentioned the Pistons game. They beat Detroit handily. A team they should beat on paper. Good. They did not play down their competition. Phoenix, again, wasn't there. Maybe, they took the Spurs lightly. The Spurs took advantage of that, and they beat them. Same thing with Indiana. Depleted Indiana Pacers team. Spurs took care of business. So you're starting to see a trend to the positives right now. Again, they won 4 out of 5, 4 of the last 5 games, but tonight will be a test. And yay, they're on the road for the next 3 games: Washington, Miami, and then at Boston before they come home. So yeah, there's some positive signs right there.
Chris and I were talking about this earlier, that with where the Spurs are now, it's looking like they could get a matchup between the Phoenix Suns or the Utah Jazz in this playoffs. Of course, you don't want to take anybody lightly, but when you look at maybe taking on the Clippers or the Lakers, they, at least on the surface, seem like they might be the better option for the Spurs. But is there one you're thinking maybe more so than the other that might fare better for the Spurs? I mean, I kind of like Phoenix just because we've got Chris Paul, and Chris Paul tends to not even make it through an entire series without getting hurt.
I'm right there with you. I think Phoenix would be the better draw for the Spurs if they get out of the play-in tournament. They still got that ahead of them. They still got to survive the play-in tournament, which means teams like the Warriors. Yeah, the Warriors could be their first draw in a play-in tournament situation. And with the way that Steph Curry has been playing lately, just playing out of his mind, just incredible basketball out of him. He could prove a power for San Antonio. But all in all, if they do survive the play-in tournament, yeah, you want Phoenix. The Clippers, well, they're the Clippers. They got Kawhi, they got Paul George. There could be a team to be reckoned with. So, the Lakers, you don't want to draw them. So of those three, yeah, you want Phoenix. Denver, maybe Denver, because they're down Murray for the season. That helps, but you still got a big man named Joker, and he could definitely give the Spurs fits. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Phoenix is the one you want to draw if you survive the play-in.
He is Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs. We're talking Spurs and NBA with him. Jeff, another bright spot for the Spurs, and he led the Spurs in scoring again when the Spurs beat the Pelicans on Saturday night. DeMar DeRozan, 32 points. He had 7 rebounds, 8 assists. I'm on some levels, this is looking like one of the best seasons of DeMar DeRozan's career. And interestingly, as fate would have it, it's a contract year. As we've discussed, he's an unrestricted free agent, he said, and it only makes sense. He's going to test the market. But from your perspective, a guy who covers the Spurs year in and year out, DeMar DeRozan's going to command a large salary, obviously. He's going to want a lot of money. Do you think that he's making a case for the Spurs? Obviously, the Spurs going with a youth movement. It's an interesting proposition for the Spurs. Do you want to throw all this money at a very talented guy who is clearly the leader of your team this year? But if for some reason he goes somewhere else, you got a big old chunk of money you could do something with in free agency. What do you think the Spurs are thinking at this point? And would they throw a lot of money at DeMar DeRozan, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think they will throw a lot of money at DeMar DeRozan if the Spurs are on his table as a team to land with next season. I don't know if they'll give out a max deal. Now, the good news is that the Spurs are so much under the salary cap. They got a bunch of money, basically, that they can afford nearly 2 mega deals for players. But the problem is that this free agent crop has been diluted tremendously. A lot of the big names are now off the table. Rudy Gobert, your Giannis, they're done. Which leaves, ironically enough, the 2 biggest fish in the pond this summer are DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi Leonard. Go figure. The 2 players that were in that trade are now the biggest fishes in the pond right now for free agency. But I think the Spurs would want to keep him. I really believe that. You're seeing what he's done right now. This is just what he does at his position. He's second in free throws made, second in free throw attempts, third in assists at his position, small forward, and 7th in points. That's valuable. In today's league where scoring is a premium, you need a guy who can score, and DeMar DeRozan is that. The thing is what does he want to do? Does he want to stay as part of a rebuild, or as Chris, you like to say, a retool? Does he want to be a part of that? Or does he want to give himself a best shot at a ring and get his last major contract with the team? The only other team that can give him a lot of money, Chris, are the Knicks. Spurs and the Knicks are the 2 teams that have the most money this offseason. So does he prefer the big bright lights of New York City, or does he want to stay in San Antonio and be a part of something that could be special down the road? We'll see. But I do think the Spurs want to keep him, and I do think they'll offer him a lot of money. I just don't know if it would be max money.
I want to dig into the NCAA real quick, because we learned that Kim Mulkey leaving Baylor after 21 seasons and 3 national championships to become the head coach at LSU. So there's
big shoes that need to be filled up there in Waco. Someone on our video feed mentioned, what if they offered Becky Hammond? I wouldn't be surprised if she at least got a sniff, but for her, I would want her to be an NBA head coach. But I also just don't know that job. It's such big shoes to fill. I just don't know that the person who is immediately going to follow is ever going to live up to those expectations. And they probably need a middleman before they go and get their next future head coach that will probably sit there and build a legacy for that program. But
Your thoughts on if Becky was offered the job, if you even think she would take it?
Well, here's the thing, too. You mentioned the big shoes to fill. You know, in that scenario, imagine the big shoes she has to fill with Popovich. Pop decides to leave, and she slides over one seat. I mean, she's in a situation where she stays in San Antonio, big shoes to fill. She takes the job, Baylor, the big shoes to fill. But I don't know if she wants to go to the college ranks. A few years ago, it was reported that she was offered a men's head coach in college, a basketball gig out of her home state in Colorado. And she declined it. And she made it very clear that her goal is NBA. So I think she's going to stick with that, stay with the NBA in mind.
She certainly, seems on a trajectory to be an NBA head coach. It is fascinating, though, what Shannon brings up. If I'm Baylor, I mean, how can you replace Kim Mulkey? You really can't. But if you could talk Becky Hammond into it, that would make a huge splash and make you hugely relevant. And I imagine just a lot of young ladies would love to go play for Becky Hammond just because of who she is. But you mentioned Jeff filling Pop's shoes. That's what I think is, I've heard some over the years, should Becky, become the next head coach of the Knicks? Should she take this job here or there? I think the very fact that she has come up in this Spurs system as an assistant coach under Greg Popovich, I think whenever Pop steps aside, if the Spurs choose, I think she's uniquely qualified to carry on the culture that Greg Popovich has built. And for what could be the first female head coach in the NBA, she'd be with a squad of players who have already played for her as an assistant coach. So it wouldn't be like she's got to you've got to sell a whole new group of male NBA players on their first ever female head coach. It would be kind of I would think an easy transition for her and for the team if they choose to go in that direction. And I got to be honest, I'm kind of hoping that I don't want Pop to step away anytime soon, but inevitably, whenever it does happen, I just think it would be great for her. It would be great for the Spurs, and I think it would be great for the NBA and the game of basketball if it happened right here.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think it's just an easier transition. You're just sliding over one seat. You already have the playbook probably by memory by now. She has the respect of not just the Spurs players, but the rest of the entire NBA/basketball world. I think there's another plus right there. And then, too, talk about a legacy that Pop will leave behind, aside from the banners that are hanging, the titles, the winning percentages, the playoff streaks, et cetera, then to hand it over to Becky. That'd be a lasting legacy for him. And you also look at this, too. The team is very young. Let's just, let's pretend that DeMar does not stay. He decides to leave, and Pop leaves as well. You got a young team that she can continue to help mold in that Spurs culture. It's not like you're bringing somebody from the outside in where you have a bunch of young guys and they all know is Spurs way, the Spurs way, and then somebody comes in and tries to buck the system. No, it's just simple. It'll be a seamless transition, not just for the coaching staff, the organization, but the players themselves. They're still young. They still want to learn from her. And if you watch Spurs games, listen to that bench. You hear her more now, her voice screaming out orders and directions and cheering them on more than Popovich. So she has a mask covered her face. So that's how enthusiastic she is about her position.
Jeff Garcia is a great follow on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. From his Twitter, you can get links to all of his coverage. Nobody puts out more Spurs and NBA coverage 24/7 than Jeff Garcia. If you love the NBA, if you love the Spurs, he's a great follow. And of course, you'll get links as well to his podcast, Locked On Spurs, which is spectacular. Jeff, great stuff as always, sir. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thank you very much. Peace.
You too, Jeff Garcia. Coming up, let's talk a little NFL draft. We've got the latest Dallas Cowboys mock draft from a Cowboys insider. We'll walk you through who some of the Dallas Cowboys picks could be in the NFL draft. If you want to jump in on the phone lines, you're always welcome. 800-707-9760. You can join us on Facebook Live as well. Streaming live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook pages. We're with you till 9. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts making the show go. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Thank you, Wes Perkins. Fred Robert Casares Jr., welcome. Yeah, my understanding is Trey Lyles is still injured. He's still on that injured list. I don't know anything about him. I've heard some people ask Fred if he's in Pop's doghouse. I don't have any information that would suggest that. Whoops. All right. Welcome back. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Music provided for your approval by Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. The NFL draft, 3 days away. It begins on Thursday. Shannon, do you feel it? Do you feel draft week fever? Are you geeked up like certainly our friend Tanner Carlson is?
No. It's barely football. We're calling names here. I'm more excited to see them people answer phones, which, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how boring the draft really is in the grand scheme of things, I think that does it right there. We're just watching people answer phone calls and wondering who's on the other side. I'm excited to see lives change, but I don't, knowing the Cowboys, I don't want to overthink anything because they can turn around and do the exact opposite as they've seemed to have done in years past. And they're in a really weird spot, right? We're at number 10. They could seemingly have their pick of who they would want for the defense, or maybe they decide to go O-line because we just sent all this money to Dak Prescott. He needs to be protected. We don't want to be paying a guy who's, ends up on the bench because he keeps getting sacked and he re-injures himself. Or maybe they see a guy like Kyle Pitts and they're like, well, he's the best player on the board. We got to take him. Well, that's not what you need. Okay. This is all about needs, not about your wants, Jerry. So last year we had a pretty good draft. You were on your yacht. I hope it's the same thing this year. I don't think it's going to be, but I sure hope it will be. But yeah, I'm not a big draft person. I watch it. It's the closest thing I can get to football at this time of year after Texas, of course, just had their spring game. But for me, it's all about what you do for me on the field. We still don't know if the Cowboys are going to be featured on Hard Knocks, although they are in the running. So I will be more excited about the draft as we actually get closer to the season to see who's actually going to pan out from the draft, right? Because so often these first rounders end up being busts.
Well, unlike you, I'm excited by it, partially because at this time of year, I am starved for football, and just to have the television on and hear people talk about NFL teams and their needs and who they get is a big deal for me. The Athletic, their Cowboy correspondent is John Machada, and he just put out his final mock draft for the Cowboys. He goes through all of their picks, and not surprisingly, at number 10, round one, what a lot of people are saying, he says it will be Patrick Surtain, the cornerback out of Alabama. But he does point out, a lot of people are talking about J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. I know Tanner Carlson is high on him. He would rather see Tanner, and we'll talk to him tomorrow about this. He'd rather see the Cowboys go with J.C. Horn out of South Carolina than Patrick Surtain of Alabama. But Machado points out that Mike McCarthy and new defensive coordinator Dan Quinn have connections to J.C. Horn, roundabout connections. McCarthy coached J.C. Horn's father, Joe Horn, who was a wide receiver with the New Orleans Saints when McCarthy was the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints between the year 2000 and 2004. His dad, Joe Horn, made the Pro Bowl 4 of those 5 seasons. Not that would certainly sway Mike McCarthy, but there's a connection there. Quinn was the defensive coordinator at the University of Florida for 2 years under then head coach Will Muschamp, and Muschamp was the head coach at South Carolina throughout J.C. Horn's college career. So those are your ties to J.C. Horn. But like most people, most analysts are suggesting that Patrick Surtain, the cornerback of Alabama, will go to the Cowboys. So that's highly expected. He has the Cowboys staying defense in the second round with the number 44 overall pick. He says Richie Grant, the safety out of the University of Central Florida, would go in round 2. Round 3, he's got them going defense as well. That's the number 75 pick. He has Aleem McNeil, a defensive tackle out of North Carolina State. And even the number 99 pick, he has them going with the edge rusher out of Vanderbilt in round 3. Dayo Odeyingbo, I can't even pronounce it, Odeyingbo Odeyyingbo. So they won't, according to him, they don't go offense until the fourth round, the number 115 pick overall. He's got him going for an offensive tackle, Deontay Smith out of East Carolina. Now, interestingly for you, Shannon, and for me and for Longhorn fans, the final pick for the Cowboys, round number 7, pick number 238 overall. He's got the Cowboys selecting quarterback Sam Ehlinger of the University of Texas. That would be fun if they did that.
I mean, they're certainly in need of a backup because I'm not a big fan of our options now. I know Garrett Gilbert is there, but I think I'd rather have a younger guy that could be molded. So Sam would be nice, but I also think either go for a young guy or go get more of a vet who you could probably find in free agency on the cheap. But depending on who else is on the board at that time and how the Cowboys actually go through those first 6 rounds, there may still be some needs they need filled later in that 7th round. We can't be talking about the draft and not discuss arguably the biggest story leading into the draft that came out this past weekend. And I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, which shame on you, sir.
I know. I feel shamed already, and I don't even know why, but I feel shame.
The commissioner, much like you, fully vaccinated.
Woo!
So he will be able to hug those in attendance at the NFL draft.
So is he planning on hugging? Have you? Is that part of the story?
His thing for years is the hugging. I mean, he lacked that connection, that physical touch during last year's draft. And, I know at first it was kind of a big like, oh, Trevor Lawrence isn't going. And now I'm like, oh, I understand why Trevor Lawrence isn't going, because in all that excitement, do I really want to go? And I mean, some of the best / worst photos from draft night are the still shots of guys being hugged by the commissioner. It just was dead on every time. It's so awkward. It's so I can't. No, thank you. Nope. And after a pancetta, why are we not like elbow fives or something?
I think we are. I can't believe he's going to hug.
I think he's coming both arms wide open.
Wow. See, I think handshakes are over. I think it's air fist bump or high five, and that's an interesting thing to watch. Will the commish be hugging people? I don't think he will. I think it's politically incorrect now.
If he somehow had COVID, like even if he tested negative and then he somehow had COVID and then he hugs every single draftee.
Well, to that point, did you hear the Jose Altuve story over the weekend? He revealed that he had, when those 4 or 5 Astros were held out of the lineup a couple of weeks ago, he revealed he tested positive for COVID after he had received his first vaccination. Now, he hadn't had 2, but he had 1, and we had heard some reports that, well, if you get the first vaccination, you're good. You're like 80% effective against COVID.
Oh, no, I know people who got COVID after their first one.
Yeah, and
who got COVID after their second one.
There are people who have gotten it after their second one.
You have to, like, that 14-day period. It's got to sit for those 14 days.
But even that, I don't think the commissioner should be hugging people. It'll be interesting to see.
There'll be a ton of think pieces on it after the fact.
But I think he'd get a load of crap if he did it. I think people would shame him and not just me for not knowing that.
But no, COVID or not, I'd be dodging that.
Yeah.
Just like a little swoop and slide. Just hand me my jersey, please.
Yeah, exactly. So, going to be back for a moment to should the Cowboys draft a quarterback and should it be Sam Ehlinger? You mentioned, they should go out and get a veteran, which I agree. You need a good veteran backup, but I think also for a number 3 quarterback, for a practice squad quarterback, if you don't believe in Ben DiNucci, and certainly Ben DiNucci, when we saw him play last year, did not water my eyes, or Garrett Gilbert, if you don't think those guys are the future, I think it always makes sense to bring in a young quarterback and develop him and see if he might surprise you and really be something special. If I were the Cowboys, I'd go get a veteran on the market to be your backup in case there's an issue ever with Dak Prescott. But I'd also, if you're not loving Ben DiNucci or Garrett Gilbert, I'd say adios to those guys and go grab Sam Ehlinger.
Well, and certainly, we talk about ceiling, and Sam, I think, certainly has a great one, especially when you think of the areas that he can improve upon, just from his college career. But you think of the type of guy and locker room guy that he is, and the leader he can be. And the fact that he grew up in Texas and grew up watching the Cowboys, and I think that, when the dream is always to play for that team, if you get taken to that team, you get signed to that team, that's just that extra motivation to push even harder than that kid is already going to be pushing. So I don't hate it. I'm not buying the jersey because he's not the starting quarterback, but I think it'd be a great opportunity for him to get that backup money and be a safe guy. But also knowing Sam, I think he really wants an opportunity to play. And after that Dak Prescott contract, I don't think he's going to be getting that opportunity unless, God forbid, Dak Prescott go down again, because we don't really see garbage time in the NFL. It's just not really a thing. So I wouldn't see him staying with the Cowboys throughout his entire career if he really does want to be on the field during true game minutes.
Yeah, I do like, but this mock draft that has Ehlinger going to the Cowboys a whole lot better than the one I mentioned to you a week or two ago. Somebody had him going to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to start disliking Sam Ehlinger. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't dislike him. Even when Colt McCoy was with Washington, I'm still,
the Giants.
Yeah.
It wasn't Vince with the Eagles for like.
Was he?
Half second.
He could have been.
Check that real quick.
Gosh. Yeah. So, I mean, if Ehlinger doesn't become a Cowboy, just stay out of the NFC East. I can like you anywhere else. Go be a backup. I'd love to see him back up my boy Tom Brady in Tampa. That'd be fun. Learn from the GOAT in Tampa. Plus, that the GOAT can't play forever. So maybe he would be the heir apparent to the GOAT in Tampa Bay. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and Vince, Eagles, 2011 was when he was there. But and if you're gonna be a backup in the NFL, I mean, and truly want a shot to then go elsewhere, why not go where Tom Brady is? I mean, that'd be the ultimate learning experience. And Tom, I would think he's less of a Falco, and that he knows his time is coming to an end. And I think he's good enough to not feel threatened by younger talent. So would be willing to, show them the ropes.
Did you just call Flacco Falco?
Falco.
Falco, of course, Keanu Reeves in the replacements.
Pronounced correctly.
But see, people like Falco.
Got a Super Bowl.
People like Falco. That was Keanu Reeves in the replacements. So people liked him at quarterback.
Okay.
And he would have been a better mentor than Joe Flacco.
Oh, for sure. Flacco.
Yeah, no, I do sense that Tom Brady, because Tom Brady doesn't have anything to be insecure about, whereas Joe Flacco, I think, does. I have a feeling Brady would be a good mentor now. Although, as I say that, I think back to Garoppolo. But then at New England, he saw Garoppolo as a threat, and I think he sensed that Belichick wanted Garoppolo to be the quarterback there.
Mm-hmm. And how many years ago was that now? I mean,
Gosh,
it feels like forever.
Three?
I mean, he's won some Super Bowls since then. He clearly at that time was like, no, I still have plenty more in me.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think a guy like Sam is a starter, at least in the next couple of years, even after that. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Earn that money. There's nothing wrong with that. Best job in the NFL.
And he seems like a guy who would, like Colt McCoy, be a great long-term backup quarterback in the NFL. But I also get the vibe from Sam Ehlinger that he'd be a great coach down the line as well. I'd like to see him after an NFL career get into. He seems. You try to think, what would Sam Ehlinger do after football, and he just seems like a coach to me.
Mm-hmm. He was at the spring game the other day, and I don't know how I felt about that.
Was he on the sideline?
He was. And there were a lot. No, players come back, but it's almost like when you go back to your high school right after you graduated.
Yeah. Like the year after you graduated, if you're on the sideline of your high school.
You're watching the guy who's supposed to take over for you, and he's already changed his number to your old number. And, you did have the option to come back, and you didn't.
That is a little weird.
It was just, I would have sat this year out is all I'm saying. But he was there.
But on another level, though, his commitment to and his love for the university, although, as I say, commitment, if you were committed to the university, would you have come back for a year? Or did he know something that is not necessarily known. Did he know that when he made that decision, the Sark thing hadn't happened yet, right? Is that correct?
It hadn't, but there was probably vibes within the locker room that there was going to be a change. And typically when you get a change like that, they like to start from scratch and let everybody, even playing field, give everybody the shot to earn their jobs.
So maybe he didn't want to leave, but he thought, gosh, I don't know who the next coach is going to be. The worst thing for my NFL career would be if I get benched. Yeah. My last year as a Longhorn, so I got to leave. Yeah.
He's a bull. He runs through everything. And I think he is getting his degree in a couple weeks.
Woo!
Here. So I don't know. If he was going to have to do grad school. I know I personally didn't choose grad school. No more school for me. No, thank you.
Woo! Shannon, outstanding as always.
Thanks, sir. And congratulations to Texas volleyball on their incredible season. Not the outcome we wanted, but nonetheless, incredible season.
Good to congratulate them. They certainly earned it. They went deep, deeper than most. Jeremy, thank you, sir. As always, have yourself a great Monday.
You too, sir. See you later.
For Jeremy, for Shannon, our thanks to Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs. Let's do this again in 21 hours. Tomorrow, Tanner Carlson, Andy Everett on tomorrow's show, NFL draft talk, and a whole lot more. Have yourself a great Monday. Adios, muchachos.